Yes, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, tankers of Blitz Universe to the channel. My name is Martin Dogger, and we're gonna watch the top 5 trash tanks in World of Tanks Blitz today. And they may or not be trash tanks, some of them are actually pretty good, but these are the least played tanks in the game over the last 90 days. And you might say then, well, you should name the video like that, well, but then it would be the top 5 tanks that people do not really play in this game, and we don't quite know why. And that's a bad title for a video. This one's a lot better. Trash tanks. We're looking at the Chinu over here, the tier 5 Japanese medium tank, obviously, driven by Angelo Loves P2W, pay to win. It's a real account. He is playing on a PC. I am recording this on a laptop, but make no mistake about it. I do not play the game on PC. I am still playing on touch on my trusty smartphone. I played a few games on a laptop, but couldn't make it work. I am still playing touch, not playing PC. While Angelo takes out the A20 player underscore number thingy is down. But why is this tank, the Chinu, the tier 5 Japanese medium tank, not much loved in the World of Tanks Blitz player base? Well, it has good view range. It has the best view range of all the tier 5 medium tanks, stock sitting at 240 meters, which is quite good. It has a god-awful DPM. It has good penetration value. It got 160 damage per shot on your AP, enhanced AP. It's not really much enhanced. It only adds 30 mils of extra penetration, so that's not really good. But the gun, it is a really good long distance gun. But yeah, this game has become a pretty much DPM type of game. 10 degrees of gun impression, that's useful. But this tank, it's not that mobile. It doesn't lose a lot of effective power to weight over soft terrain, but it is not that quick to begin with. There are so many tier 5 tanks that do the job as good as the Chinu that you could state, well, why would you even bother playing this tank while Angelo takes out the Lago, the tier 4 pan-European tank? Well, you have to go through this tank to get to the Type 61, which has been recently buffed, and to go to the very much excellent STB1. And you can see that Angelo now can get a shot on the KV1, and he's using the autolock, which means that the autolock on PC center aims, and the KV1 happens to have the tracks right there, dead in the center of the tank. And this is an AFK tank, luckily. I'm not sure if they would have lost anyway, if this tank would have been there, but yeah, you can see that the gun is good enough. It will go through the sides of other tanks on the tier, heavy tanks as well, no problem whatsoever. But it's just a paper medium tank at a tier which is KV2s and other big tanks, and he's managed to farm a bit of damage. You can see the damage over there. It was an ace game. I decided not to feature all of the game and all the screen results, just to make sure that the video wasn't like 25 minutes long in total. And we're gonna go towards one of the next least played tanks, which is the Bathtub, the S35CA. Obsidian Fury is playing this tank from the Band clan. And if you take a good look at the screen, you can see that this tank has a wonky gun arc. If you want to shoot to the right, looking at center line of the tank, then, well, thank you, Wolverine. If you're looking at the center line of the tank, like Obsidian Fury is doing here, if you want to shoot towards the right, like he's going to do here towards this SU-85, you have a really wide gun arc. If you want to shoot towards the left, which he's going to show here, then you have a very trashy gun arc. It's really strange, and that has to do with the fact that the gun is not mounted in the center of the tank. You have to adjust to that. It takes some getting used to. And again, this is a tier 5 tank, which you have to endure to go towards the what's the next one? The ARL V39 and the AMX ACs to watch the Foch and the Foch 155. This is just a bit of a stepping stone. But should you decide to play this top 5 trash tank, this S35CA, I would recommend you to use it with the gun that Obsidian Fury is using here, which is the stock gun, the 17 pounder. This has superb penetration values. This has a very good DPM. It's actually a tier 6 gun. Don't get the tier 7, don't get the 19 mil, because you will lose 124 in terms of DPM. You will gain 124 in terms of DPM, but you lose 36 on your penetration on AP and 64 on your penetration on your APCR. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tankers of Blitz Universe, this tank has a stock penetrating gun of 171 as a freaking tier 5. That's a brilliant gun, a 70-pounder gun. And if you're going to use the APCR, then you get 239. You can punch through everything that you will face at this tier. If you have that very wonky gun arc towards the left and the right, you only have, quote unquote, you've got 15 degrees towards the left and 29 towards the right. So that's very much workable, but you have to adjust to it. It's a strange thing to start playing with the tank at first. Speed and mobility, etc., that's, well, subpar. Pretty much worst of the lot. But then again, it is a small tank. You can see once you get it to speed, it's fine. But if you have to go around corners, then it isn't a really joyful tank to drive. But then again, neither is an 82 trying to traverse. You're pretty much better off driving a Stuck at this tier and not an S35CA. But having the S35CA, as said, you have to go towards the S35CA and then towards the Aero V39, which is a very bad tank as well. And only then can you get towards the Foch 155, which is getting nerfed in bit 6.7. More on that later. But other than that, yeah, it is not a much played tank. It's not often played by the player base. How many tankers play this tank then? Well, there's only, over the last 90 days, 334 players playing this tank and 106 battles. The Chino is even less. 184 players and 88 battles. It's not big numbers by any feat. And of course it's only tier 5, and these are the tiers that once you've ground them out and once you've gone towards the next tank, you will probably sell them. And it will probably not be a big mistake that this tank, which just does not die, is in the list as well. The AT2, the Assault Tank 2. We are 1 minute into the game, as you can see here. And Cimberillo has done 92 damage. I was going to say no tanks have died yet, but the Nightmare on the red team is down, which is good. And he can now keep driving forward at his whopping 25 kilometers top speed, and then just form a big block of steel over here and start work on the side of the Rampanzer. And the Rampanzer can shoot him. He's trying to go through the tracks. That does not quite work. If you're trying to shoot AP at an 82, shoot a cupola on top, you might be able to penetrate that. But other than that, you have to resort to APCR if you are playing a tier 5 tank, let alone a tier 4. You will have no hope in hell trying to penetrate the tank, other than shooting in through the side, in the back, or in the cupola right there on top. But having that 90 alpha damage pop gun, the pew pew gun, you can also see that Cimberillo has a bit of problems getting the damage out, and luckily the Reds are, well, not that experienced. He can now shoot the Rampanzer up the ass, and then he can shoot the Rampanzer again. Oh, he's behind the T1 Heavy, shoot the Rampanzer again. Yes, he's still not dead because he's only got 90 damage on the gun, but luckily the Rampanzer decides to sit there in front, and you can see he's not going to use APCR. He doesn't need to. And I think he's going to get one more shot of damage in. He's done 1109 damage, which is going to be the top damage dealer on the team. And this replay, I think it was a second class. I've cut out that little bit as well, but it speaks volumes. Yeah, there's the last little bit of damage. It speaks volumes of this tank, and also the tiers that you're playing, and that if you're doing 1149 damage, that you can be the top damage dealer, even if you do only 90 per shot, and he doesn't even have the speed to go around and then kill this BDR. And there it is, 82, one of the least played tanks in the game because it's just so freaking slow. 244 players with 99 battles over the last 90 days. And then we're looking at this tank, the Churchill Mark I. And again, it takes you about a minute to get into the action. And there's an AMX ALC. Oh, hello, Alecto. Yes, let's shoot you just for once now. There's another Rampanzer. There we go. Keep driving backwards. Shooting the Rampanzer in the side. And shoot him again in the side because the Churchill 1 has a really good gun as well. It's packing a top gun which is 75 mils thickest HV, high velocity, 145 penetration on AP and 202 on APCR. That's not too shabby at all. Actually, it's pretty much the best if you're looking at the class we're in, the tier 5 heavy tanks. But as with the Chinook and as with the AT2, these tanks are tanks that can stand a bit of suffering, can take a bit of a beating. They can really absorb some damage. You have wide tracks on the tank which do help with a little bit of side scraping. But if you're then looking at this BDR, that one has some troll armor as well. Not that really big armor that the Churchill one has, but it has a gun that deals a bit more in terms of damage. That said though, 1486 in terms of damage, that's nothing to be ashamed about. There's 3 tanks down on the reds. But no kills yet for our hero, who goes by the name Rollo Tomazzi. And Rollo Tomazzi is gonna roll forward in the church and he's gonna shoot this Stuck and then the gun fails you. That's what you get. Very accurate British guns, and at the least opportune moment they fail you twice. But luckily the Stuck decides to engage an AFK Leopard instead of trying to fight tanks that are a bit of a threat. Because Rollo Tomazzi now gets the kill on Death Bringer number thingy. But you can see he's managed to get back into his spawn. And we are, what's it like, 3 minutes into the game, and well, he hasn't been able to get a lot of kills, only 1, but he hasn't been able to really command the terrain. He had to go back, but it took him quite some time. And he's just spamming APCR here on the front of the M4 Sherman. Probably could have gone through with AP, no problem whatsoever. But yeah, let's use the APCR for added muzzle velocity, shell velocity, and also spam it on this AMX ELC Biz, who's actually trying to play a good game of running away, and then he finds himself stuck against the side of the Rampanzer. But you can see, it's the Panzer IV, you can see that the AMX ELC Biz can just run away, and the T-34 can run away as well. And Rollo is, he's not stupid. He already figured out, right, I have to move away now. I have to take another position. I can't just keep going forward. I will never be able to chase that AMX ELC Biz. And yes, he's got the hit points to spare. But you can see how slow this tank just is. And it's the same as with the Chinook. You're gonna face an SU-100Y, a KV-2, a lot of big guns that do 225 damage, even at tier 5. And tier 6 is even more like that. And as a top tier heavy against tier 4s, you can really do a lot of damage. Because the aim time on the gun is good, it has a really accurate gun, best dispersion factors upon moving and rotating, etc. and after the shot as well. But it's only got 4 degrees of gun depression, which is not brilliant by any means. It has got, if you're using the 6-pounder gun, then it gets 9 degrees of gun depression, God knows why, but then you're dropping in terms of damage per shot. So that is not advised at all. But it is so freaking slow, and let's spam more APCR on the front of an Electo, who is definitely trying to move around. Not gonna work. And bounce another shot. There we go, from the AMX ELC Biz. But even now, the Biscuit can just move away, as you can see, and then try to shoot the, what's it, the T-34, and he's going to get killed now by the T-34. And you can see that the damage that Rollo has done was pretty impressive, and there was a mastery, obviously. But again, it is a tier 5 tank that is, well, somewhat good in a way, but pretty trashy in the current meta. And that's why not a lot of people play this tank. There's only 264 players over the last 90 days with 82 battles. That's just bad. There are 270 players playing 100 battles in this tank, the VK3001D. And this tank is a strange one. It has a choice of only 2 guns. 7.5 centimeter gun, the Kampfwagenkanon 42 L70, which gives you god-awful penetration at the tier, which has a high rate of fire but only 160 damage, so just blinking away at the big guns at tier 8, and which gives an 8.8 centimeter gun as well, which is the same as on the Tiger and the Tiger B. So then you're looking at 220 alpha per shot, but even worse penetration, 145. And 2226 DPM, and that's with a rammer. But that very bad DPM isn't the only strange thing this tank has to worry about. And you can see just even the size of a 100 OMP, you will not go through with AP. You need to resort to APCR. And Billy Bob Brewbreak FTW, who's playing the tank here from the Toes clan, and he quickly switches to APCR to punch through the lower plate of that VK 100 OMP, which is a good thing. And then you have to back off because there's a big gun tank destroyer on the flank and a gravedigger down there as well. He has support of the heavies behind him, but you can't trade shots with this tank against top tier targets, and he's not going to do that. He's going to play it very sensibly. And one thing you really have to factor into your gameplay if you're driving the VK3002D is the just god awful turret traverse speed. Just look at that. It is. You have to pre-position your tank so you have shots on target, because you can't keep up with the gameplay. The turret traverse, if it is stock, if you're not using anything, is, hold on to your seats, a whopping 25 degrees per second. 25 degrees per second. And that number, ladies and gentlemen, tankers of Blitz Universe, is by far, by miles, the worst in class for all the tier 7 medium tanks. The next one in line is the Panther, which hasn't got brilliant turret traverse speed, but that, when it is stock, has a turret traverse speed of, hold on to your seats, 34. That's a whopping 10 degrees extra, and 34 is nothing to write home about, but it has a few degrees extra, and that makes all the difference in playing this tank. I think that's the reason why people do not keep this tank in their garage, or let alone play it. I mean, if you want to, if you're playing this tank, you're playing it to get to the Leopard 1. But if you want to get the Leopard 1, you can also buy the VK2801, then get the SP1C, which is not brilliant, but it's a light tank, so it's a bit more fun to play. And then the RU251. If you want to get towards the T50, the E50M, you can go from the VK3001D towards the Panther, Panther 2, and then the E50 and E50M. So this tank sits in a really strange spot. It's kind of like the KV-13 back in the days when it was still in the tech tree. It does lead to somewhere, but I mean not quite. And I can imagine people trying to get towards the Leopard and then playing this tank and thinking, oh, this is a god awful tank. I'm much better off playing the VK2801 than the SP1C. And that's probably why this tank is not really much loved in the World of Tanks Blitz player base, and it's the least played tier 7 tech tree tank currently available in the game. And that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen, tankers of Blitz Universe. Please let me know what your least played tank is, your least favorite tank that you've played yourself, and do drop comments below and suggestions as well for a next top 5 video. That's it for today. I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers, happy tanking, bye bye.